Hi everyone, this is Coach Lay with Magis Athletic Training. I'd like to welcome you to the Magis Athletic Training YouTube channel, where you can find the latest science-based information on athletic training and all things fitness. Today, we will be going over goal setting. How do we set goals? What is a goal? What makes an item a goal? And what are the important steps to achieving our goals? So let's get right into it, and we're going to talk about our goals. So there are two things that we do want to distinguish. Those two things are the difference between a goal and a wish. So here we have a wish, and here we have a goal. What is the difference between a wish and a goal? A wish is something that we wish for, but we don't have a plan to achieve it. A wish is, I wish I had a six-pack, but I haven't taken the steps to think about that action plan of how to achieve that goal. A goal is once we take a gap analysis of that wish and start to put in actionable plans. So here we have our goal, and here we have our gap analysis. Gap analysis means that this is the goal, this is where I'm at. So, how do I begin to go from where I'm at to achieve that goal? Now, we want to start to make action steps to reach that goal, and let's talk about that now. So there are two different types of goals. We have a long-term goal A long-term goal is defined as any goal that takes 90 days or greater. So it's greater than 90 days. Then we have a short-term goal. And a short-term goal we are going to define as it takes 90 days or less. So again, we have our long-term goal, we have our short-term goals. So again, we are defining those as long-term, anything that takes 90 days or more. Short-term, anything that takes 90 days or less. Now, we're going to park right here for one moment, because one thing that we do want to identify in this is that our short-term goals should be in line with our long-term goals. These short-term goals should be incrementally moving us toward that long-term goal. What do I mean by that? Coach Lay, I want to be able to improve my bench press from 150 pounds to 175 pounds over the next 90 days. So our 90-day goal is to improve our bench press by 15 pounds. So that means that over the course of that 90 days, I'm going to set benchmarks that maybe each week I'm going to increase the amount that I'm benching by maybe 2.5, 5 pounds. So I'm going to go from 150 pounds, and this week's goal is for me to increase it by 2.5 pounds. So I'm going to go from 150 pounds to 152 pounds by the end of this week. And by the end of next week, I'm going to go to 155 pounds. By the following week, I'll go to 157 and a half pounds. So I'm going to increase that incrementally each week. But each week that I'm achieving that short-term goal is moving me in the direction of a long-term goal. Now, let's talk about how do we define goals. Goal setting can be defined as making sure that our goals are SMART goals. Which means that the goal should be specific, it should be measurable, it should be attainable, it should be relevant, and it should be timely. So there are 5 principles that go into creating a SMART goal. That again is that it should be specific, measurable, obtainable or attainable, relevant, and timely. What do those 5 parts of that goal setting mean? Specific means that that goal should have a very specific destination. If a goal is not specific, then we don't know whether or not we're moving toward the goal, whether or not what we're doing is moving us further away from the goal, or whether or not what we're doing is not moving the needle at all in either direction. But also, just as importantly, we won't know when we achieve the goal if we don't know what the goal is. So, in this case, we want to make sure that per the example of lifting weights, the specific goal is to increase bench press by 15 pounds over 90 days. It should be measurable. This ties right into it being very specific. Because what's measured gets monitored. If it's not measurable, again, we have no way of telling whether or not the energy that we are expending toward this goal is actually moving us toward that goal. So, again, it should be measurable. In this case, the goal is to gain 15 pounds of strength in our bench press. So, each week we want to measure that we are increasing our bench press by 2.5 pounds. So again, here we have that we make sure that the goal is able to be measured to make sure that what we are doing, the principles that we are applying, the efforts that we are putting out, the energy that we are expending is moving us toward that goal. Secondly, or thirdly, we want to make sure that that goal is attainable, meaning that that goal should be, for the most part, reasonable, but partially unreasonable. What I mean by that is this. As a fitness instructor, if a client comes to me and says, I want to lose 30 pounds, it would be very unrealistic for me to say, hey, you know what? I can guarantee you I can have you lose 30 pounds in 48 hours. That is not safe, it's not realistic, and it's not attainable. So we want to make sure that the goals that we are setting for ourselves are reasonable, but unreasonable to the point that they are pushing us to get out of our comfort zone and to grow. So, again, we want to make sure that the goal is realistic. Fourth part of this principle is that we want to make sure that the goal is relevant. What we mean here is that we want to make sure that the goal is your goal. It's not someone else's goal for you. It's yours. We want you to own that goal because you will face challenges to reaching that goal. You will face adversity toward reaching that goal. You will find that you will hit bumps in the road along the path to you reaching your goal. But if the goal isn't yours, then when you hit that adversity, you'll quit. Point blank period, you'll quit because it's not in you to actually reach a goal that's not yours. You're reaching the goal for someone else. You're reaching the goal for your coach. You're reaching the goal for your mom. You're reaching the goal for a family friend. So we want to make sure that that goal is yours, because when that goal is yours and you own it with every fiber of your being, then you will not take no for an answer. Come hell or high water, you will find a way to obtain that goal, to keep pushing, to dig down deep. So again, when we're talking about relevancy, we're talking about making sure that you own that goal. So we're going to say ownership. It's yours. It's nobody else's goal but yours. And lastly, we want to make sure that that goal is timely. So there should be a time frame on the goal. Reason being is that when it's timely, it adds a sense of urgency. It adds a sense of priority. If there is no time frame on the goal, then it gets done whenever it gets done, and many times it just doesn't get done. So here, again, when we have our goals, we're making sure that they're timely. In this case, the time frame was 90 days, and we had our short-term goals of losing 2.5 pounds per week. So in this case, they were weekly, then monthly, and then your 90-day window. So again, when we are making our goals, we want to make sure that we are going through these 5 principles, that they are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. So now that we've gone over that, as I said, when you're reaching for your goals, you're going to run into some potholes in the road. You're going to face some adversity. You're going to have some hard days, some easy days, some days where you don't feel like getting up to grind. What do we call those? We call those barriers to adherence. Why do we call them barriers to adherence? We call them barriers to adherence because you're adhering to a behavior that is moving you in the direction of your goal. So when you don't adhere to it, you've hit a barrier. So again, the barrier to adherence is when you hit things that cause you not to continue the behavior, the pattern, and the habits that you've developed that are helping you reach that goal. What is one of the most common barriers to adhering a goal? And that is a lack of time. This, I would like to say, is one of the number one barriers to reaching our goals. But there are several things that you can do to help you with that. One of that is better time management. A time management app. Or a trusty dusty scheduler. So again, one of the number one barriers to adherence is a lack of time. So we try to overcome that by utilizing better time management, possibly a time management app on our phone or smart device, or an old school scheduler. Something else that I would say is the number two barrier to adherence is a lack of energy. Now, in the fitness realm, we've hit a conundrum here. Because many times when we're speaking to someone who may be wanting to lose weight, their lack of energy is actually part of the problem of the behavior that they're trying to solve. And part of the lack of energy is not having proper rest, not having the proper nutrition, and not having the proper hydration. So here we have an individual who is trying to lose weight, but they don't have the energy to lose weight, partially because they may not have been getting the proper amount of rest of 8 hours, 8 or 9 hours of rest per night. They may only be getting 3 or 4 hours of sleep. They may not have the proper nutrition because they may be eating fast food, or they may be eating heavily processed food, or they may not have the proper hydration, meaning that they may not be taking in adequate amounts of water and are somewhat dehydrated. Another barrier that is commonly heard is a lack of money. So, in training individuals, one of the things that I find is that there typically is money around to pay for training, but we just don't prioritize it in that manner. So it may be that we are not going to Starbucks 5 times a week in the morning to go grab that morning coffee for $10 a pop at $50 a week. It may be that we may not be going out partying on the weekends, spending, $30, $40 every time we go out. So again, a lack of money should never be a barrier to your fitness goal. Also, if it's truly we just don't have the money, no matter what bucket we pour it out of, then again, fitness can always be done body weight. Fitness can always be done in a park. We don't have to pay for a gym. We don't have to necessarily pay for a trainer. Though those are very valuable assets, they are not 100% necessary for you to achieve a healthy lifestyle. All right. And number 4, that is that training is expensive. So again, another barrier that generally in the fitness realm that I hear is that, again, due to lack of money, training is expensive. I'd like to tell you now that I placed a comment here for a reason. And that is, training is not expensive. What is expensive is 20 years down the line having a stroke, having a heart attack, having high blood pressure, not being mobile, not being fit to be able to enjoy family time and activities with your family. Now again, I'm not here to scare anyone saying that if you're not fit, you're going to have a stroke, heart attack, or anything of that nature. But what I am saying is that there is a link between comorbidities of high blood pressure, obesity, overweightness, and there is a correlation to strokes, heart attacks, high blood pressure, things of that nature. So all I am saying is that we want to make sure that we don't look at it or look at our health as an expense. We look at it as an investment. So again, training isn't expensive, it's an investment. You are investing in your future self. You are investing in your future family. You are investing in you. So, we have gone over some barriers to it of adherence. So again, we talked about the lack of time and how we can do better at time management, utilizing a time management app or a scheduler. Talked about the lack of energy due to not having the proper rest, hydration, or nutrition. Talked about the lack of money and the mindset that training is expensive, which it is not. It is an investment. So we're going to move on to another major barrier to adherence, and that is the big S word, stress. Stress is one of the number one reasons that we do not adhere toward reaching our goals. So what are some of the major stressors that one may face? Number one, it could be a change in marital status. So, you could have gone from dating to getting married. You can go on from being married to being divorced or separated. That brings along a whole dynamic of stress and different types of anxiety, which may make it difficult to adhere to trying to reach our goals. Another stressor is a change in family status. When we talk about family status or a change thereof in family status, again, we could be talking about getting married, adding a wife, adding a spouse. We could talk about, again, divorce. We could talk about becoming a widow or widower. We could be talking about the joys of an addition to the family through either natural birth, pregnancy, or adoption. We could be talking about the loss of a loved one or loss of a very close friend. So again, a change in family status could definitely be a major stressor. Another major stressor could be a change in job status. So again, that change in job status could be good or bad. It could be, hey, we got a promotion. That promotion is going to require that I work twice as many hours as I was working before. It could be I got a demotion or got furloughed, especially in some of the times that we are facing right now. You know, it could be a loss of a job. So again, that adds to it another major stress. Another stressor is a change in economic status. So again, this goes hand in hand with change in job potentially. It could be that again we lost our job, we no longer have the funds to train or go to the gym. It could be that again due to a change in the family we've added a newborn, and that's adding additional expenses to the family. So again, that is a major stressor. And then lastly, we'll talk about change in living situation. That could be, again, hey, we bought a brand new house. That house a little bit further away from the gym than previously where I lived at. So again, not able to make it to the gym. It could be the stress of, hey, I now have gone from renting an apartment to owning a home, and I have the stresses that come along with that, of having a mortgage, of having to own and be responsible for all the repairs to my new home. Now that we've identified the stressors, let's talk about the response or the reaction to the stressors. So here, we're going to go to unhealthy responses. Typically, there are many different types of unhealthy responses and how that is expressed to an individual. In the health field, three of the main ways that they are expressed is, number one, overeating. So many times, due to stress, we seek out comfort food. That's why it's called comfort food, because it makes you feel comfortable when you're stressed or have anxiety or just in a place of uncertainty. Another unhealthy response to that is over drinking. And when we say over drinking, many people think of alcohol, which is very true and very prevalent. So one of the ways that we deal with stress is that we drink. However, there are people who do not drink alcohol, and how they respond to that is drinking very sugary drinks like an abundance of soda. And lastly, one of the ways that we unhealthily respond is to self-medicate. So self-medication, again, we may be experiencing some stress and start to take maybe some Percocet, some Xanax, or something unhealthy, and start to self-medicate ourselves to try to get rid of those feelings of stress and anxiety and worry. Now that we've talked about stress and the unhealthy responses to that, let's talk about the healthy responses. So, one of the healthy responses to that, to stress, would be exercise. So exercise would be a healthy response to stress. So again, when we are feeling stressed, we go work out, hit the weight room, might go for a run, might go for a little workout, take a walk in the park. Another healthy response is meditation. So again, we've experienced stress. One of the ways that we deal with that stress is just some self-reflection, finding a quiet space to have a conversation with ourselves or have a conversation with our God or whomever we feel that spiritually we connect to. So again, just some meditation. And lastly, one of the ways to deal with that stress healthy is to seek out professional help. And that is when we just start to feel overwhelmed with the stress, and we just need to speak to someone who knows how to give us the tools to handle that stress, to deal with that stress, to cope with that stress. And there is no shame to seeking out professional help. I'm speaking that as a 2-time suicide attempt survivor. There is no shame to seeking out professional help. So please, if you feel that you need help, that you need someone to talk to, please reach out to a medical professional. So we are going to close now that we've gone over the stress. So again, we're talking about the major stressors, which are change in marital status, change in family status, change in job status, change in economic status, change in living situation. And some of the unhealthy ways of dealing with that stress is overeating, drinking, or self-medicating. But again, the flip side of that is that there's always a healthy response. And we have the opportunity to choose to exercise, meditate, or seek professional help. So, as we move into the last section of goal setting, I want to challenge you. And what I want to challenge you with is 3 questions. And that is, what barriers to success with your health and fitness goals exist for you? So I want you to take time and think about it. We've gone over our goals. We made sure that they were specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. We've identified what were some of the major stressors to those goals and what were some of the barriers to adherence to those goals. And we talked about how we can have some positive responses to those goals. But now that we've made those goals and we started to make a major plan, let's think ahead and think about what are some of those barriers that you are going to change, that you are going to face in reaching your goal. Your second question is, what are your strengths? So we all have strengths and weaknesses. So I want you to think about, in relationship to your goals, what are some of your strengths to achieving that goal? And lastly, I want you to combine the two, which I kind of just said it. I want you to think about how you can use your strengths to achieve your goals. So again, what are the barriers to success with your health and fitness goals? What barriers do you have? You know, as you start to think about that goal and some of the barriers, do you have a barrier of time management? Do you have a barrier of a lack of money? What are some of those barriers? Now I want you to think about, what are some of the strengths that you bring to the table? We all bring strengths to the table, each and every one of us. And lastly, how can we use those strengths and apply those strengths to achieve our goals? So, I'd like to thank you for taking out the time to watch our video today on goal setting. And if you like the content that we are providing on this channel and you find value in it, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Click that subscribe link right at the bottom. And this is Coach Lay reminding you to always live, love, and train Magis. See you next week.